We're joined by UNC Senator Jayanti Lutchmedial. A pleasant good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. How are you? And good evening to all the listeners.
It's a pleasure having you on. We are great. The Prime Minister, of course, said some time back that the inability to implement the property tax could deprive Trinidad and Tobago of much needed revenue and cause it to seek help from the IMF, which is the International Monetary Fund. You, of course, have made it quite clear that this entire thing is an instrument of tyranny, which is oppressive to the citizens of this country. Tell us, expand on that, please.
Well, there are two elements to that. Firstly, the government is responsible for the economic state that we are in right now. I was just listening to Kevin Ramrine speaking there, and as much as he will be, vilified and attacked by the PNM and Stuart Young and them over and over, at the end of the day, I don't think that we can deny that our main source of income in this country of revenue generation and so on, the oil and gas industry, was under much better management prior to this administration taking office. So they have mismanaged the economy. They are guilty of, squandermania, cost overruns, and all sorts of other basically just not really seeking to create new revenue streams or to develop our revenue streams. Gas exploration and production. There was a failed bid round. All of these things have contributed to the financial situation that we are in. So to now say that we will go to the IMF unless you collect property tax, whose fault is that? They must bolt that to their chest and wear it, because they are responsible for the situation that we are in today. So that's the first thing. And the second thing, why I say it is, apart from imposing this tax on people now at a time when, the economy is so bad and people are suffering, is that the entire process is flawed. And that makes it tyrannical, because if you are going to collect taxes, you must have it done in such a way that it is, fair, that it is rolled out properly, that you have proper procedure in place for due process in terms of the objection procedure. But the valuation process is flawed, the objection process is flawed, everything surrounding this property tax is flawed. So as a whole, as a principle, firstly, we object to the implementation of property tax. We say no property tax should be imposed on citizens at this time due to the state of the economy. And secondly, we say that it is, it's the way that they have mismanaged that process as well. They mismanage everything. So they have mismanaged this process of valuation and so on as well. And the way the law is designed, with, so many loopholes and not loopholes, but there's so many areas of where you should have protections for citizens and offer them, due process that they can utilize to object to certain valuations and so on. With the absence of those things, it really is an element of tyranny.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And also listening to Mr. Ramnarine, as you put it, it was a matter of so much of mismanagement and now trying to create this optical illusion that the energy sector and all these other sectors are being managed properly, and the fact that the last regime didn't do what they had to do. But yet still we see where the last resort, we hope it would have been the last resort, but the only alternative is to basically tax the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And in all of this, you hear the narrative about senior citizens, those who are on fixed income, is going to get some sense of relief. But when you continue with that, it's then being told that if it is that someone has to inherit that property, some relative, they will have to pay those back taxes that was not paid, by your elderly relative. And all of that puts a strain on the mind of the citizens who can't seem to function, even with this, with the backdrop of this economic climate, is this compounded stress where you have senior citizens concerned. They're already on a fixed income. They can't stretch it anymore. So what are we looking at as far as moving forward as citizens of this country with this sort of system?
With this government in place, you have nothing positive to look forward to. I agree with you 100% that if they boast about their excellent management of the energy sector. If they were managing the energy sector properly, they wouldn't have to say we need property tax, otherwise you go in IMF. Okay, so the first sign that they have mismanaged the energy sector is the fact that they have to now rely on property tax in order to fund basic goods and services through the corporations and so on. So that's one thing. Let me tell you something. Bastille Pandey ran this country when oil was $9 a barrel, okay? And constructed a world-class airport that's still winning awards today. Kamala Prasad Tessa built hospitals, 100 schools, 9 police stations, had our roads in much better condition, and never imposed a single new tax, and removed VAT from 7,000 food items, and never imposed a single new tax on the citizens of this country. We are already facing an online purchase tax, and now we are facing the property tax from this government. Their management of the economy has been bad. So that's the first thing. When you come to the pensions, and let me explain what this propaganda that they are trying to purport. They are saying, well, don't worry, if you're a pensioner, you're on a fixed income and you can't afford it, you'll be exempted. That's not true. There is no exemption. There is something called a process of a deferral. And you have to go every 2 years as a pensioner and apply to continue this deferral. Now, I don't know if they think you'll stop being a pensioner after 2 years. If today you are 60 years old, you're 62 years old, and you're a pensioner and you apply, doesn't that continue until the end of your life? So why make people have to come every 2 years and justify? And it's not automatic that if you're a pensioner, you're getting this deferral. You have to show them the hardship that it will cause you, and it's at their discretion that they can grant you this deferral. And what the deferral means is that the tax will continue to run as a charge against the property, and it becomes payable by when the property has to be passed on. Minister Imber tries to deflect from that now and say, well, if the person who inherits the property also is suffering from some hardship, they can also apply for a deferral. So you are going to defer and defer and defer the tax and let it run against the property. And someday, somebody might inherit the property who will not be able to justify a deferral, or who may just, the government may decide, or BIR or Revenue Authority, whoever might decide, we're not granting any further deferrals because we haven't collected property tax in relation to this property for 5 years or 10 years or 15 years, and we'll say pay it off now, immediately. The other thing, and then you have 15 years of back taxes accrued to be paid. The other thing is that when you have to register a deed, and any attorney will tell you this, for example, WASA charges are charges against your property. Right. And if you've ever bought property, you will remember that you'd have to show a WASA clearance, which says that no WASA charges are owing and so on. Property tax is likely to be the same. If property taxes are owing at the time of the death of a pensioner or something like that, and you probate their estate, you probate their will, and you go to transfer this property into your name as the child, the grandchild, whoever has inherited it, they may very well tell you, well, there's a charge against this property and it cannot be transferred into your name until you clear the taxes or until you obtain this deferral and things like that. So you're going to create, all of these things. First, to begin with, it, as you rightly said, it causes stress and strain on the minds of people. I hate this thing, and I've met quite a bit of them because I've been meeting with a lot of people through our counselors and so on here in San Fernando who are asking for assistance and asking for help to file objections and all of that, right? And a lot of them are pensioners. And many of them are scared to apply for this deferral because they don't want, when their children inherit the property, that their children are going to inherit years of taxes that they have to pay. They probably know that their children may not be able to justify the deferral because the children are employed, but they are modestly employed. They have their own homes. Many of them might have had business and so on that closed down. They're now struggling to get back on their feet. You think anybody wants to go and know that before they, go down into the grave or go down the creek to get burned, that their children inheriting a debt? Do you think that is what the pensioners of this country deserve to be facing right now? And that's what this government is doing to them. That's what this government is putting over their head.
And Senator, you're 100% correct. I mean, and the fact about the objection process, you said that the first line of defense is to object to the same commissioner of valuations who told you that this is the valuation. On top of that, you don't even know how they came up with this figure because What qualifications do those people have out there who are conducting these valuations?
So we raised that issue in the Senate. Minister Imbert responded and said that the people who conducted who were visiting, they were called field assessors, and they didn't do the valuation. They took the information back to the valuations division where they have qualified people. So the qualified people weren't the ones out on the street. The qualified people are sitting in an office somewhere using information collected by these people who stand up on the curb and count your AC compressors and decide that's how much bedrooms you have and count how many vent windows they see and decide that that's how much bathrooms you have or whatever it is. And they then determine the valuation somewhere in-house in Port of Spain. So somebody would have gone down to Mayaro or Point Fortin or Sandy Grande and carry back information, somebody who totally has absolutely no qualifications in valuations and so on, but they are a field assessor, and they would have carried the information back to Port of Spain, and somebody sat down in an office in Port of Spain and decided that this is the annual rental value for your property. And what makes it even worse is that the notice that you get has zero information for you to use now to mount a challenge to say, well, this is wrong, this is incorrect. So what I have is 3 bedrooms. The person is saying I have 3 bathrooms, and what I have is 1 bathroom, etc., etc. And those, the fact that they have not condescended to provide those particulars to citizens is a serious flaw in this process, because you are depriving the citizen of the information that they can equip themselves to mount a proper challenge to evaluation. So we don't, and that's why we probably have valuations coming in that to persons whose houses are almost identical in gated communities, those prefab type gated homes or agency communities or townhouses and so on. Imagine a townhouse where you can even change the color of the paint without getting permission from a homeowners association. People are getting different valuation value of the annual rental value. Yeah. And at the end of the day, garbage in, garbage out. I'm sure you've heard that expression before. If field assessors don't know what they're doing, then the information that they're carrying back to Port of Spain for the evaluator, I don't care how qualified the 1 or 2 or 3 people sitting in valuations division might be, if they're working with bad data, then it's a bad valuation. They very well might be coming up with bad valuations, and that's why we have so many discrepancies. And
you're being told that if you don't like this valuation, if you believe that it's not accurate, then you can hire your own company to do that valuation for you. Now, I did some checking. Of course, there's always a list of valuators that finance companies provide for you. And they start off, the cheapest was $2,500 deposit. That's just the deposit. Now, if the valuation comes about at a certain amount, you may have to pay more. But just to start the process is $2,500. So now if I go through this entire process, it may end up costing me more than what they're telling me I have to pay for my property and taxes.
Correct. That is exactly correct. I actually raised the issue when I heard Minister Imbert speak at the last, before the Prime Minister, down in, I think it was Tunapuna, one of the little Panyard escapades.
Yeah.
And she said that if you want to challenge the valuation, and I posted this on my TikTok account, and I see it's gone very far, and I hope people listen very carefully and educate themselves. This government is saying that if you want to challenge, they are giving you no particulars. But if you want to come and challenge the figure that they drop on you on this 1 sheet of paper, then you must go and get a private valuation. I also called around. I use the list of certified valuators that all of the banks and so on provide. I called a number of them. And what I was told is if your property falls below $800,000, they will give you the report for $2,000. That's the starting point.
Yeah.
But any above $800,000 as a capital value, that they will be charging you 0.25% the value of your property. So that, depending on what kind of property you have, and they work with capital value, whether they are assessing rental or capital value, the price that they are going to charge you is based on their capital value and what they value the capital value of the house at. So, it is really ridiculous. And as I say, there's absolutely no due process here. There's no provision in the law that if you wish to even challenge it, that you can have a pause in the process. You still have to pay the tax. So while you're looking to come up with the $2,500 deposit to pay the evaluator, you still have to go and pay the tax by 30th.
The meter is still running. Finally, you warn that under this Property Tax Act that if the tax is unpaid after 5 years, government can seize your property?
Yes, that's in the Property Tax Act. There's something called the power to distrain after 2 years, and there's after 5 years the power to order a sale and to go for a sale. So distrain means to come and pick up chattels. So chattels are things not attached to the property: your fridge, your stove, your bed, things that are on the property that they could find and seize and sell. And the power to sale is something that they can get an order and put up your property on auction to sell out and all of those things. And those powers exist. They existed before. I posted again on my Facebook page, and I hope people are looking at these things, where there was an interview conducted about property tax, one of the little information sessions with someone from the Revenue Authority, the Inward Controlled Revenue Authority, which said that, they are going to try to ensure greater compliance with the law now. So the fact of the matter is this. I don't know that power was ever exercised before when it came to land and building taxes and so on, which were a lot more reasonable. Probably never had cause to do it.
Right.
But the fact is that with this draconian property tax, a government that seems desperate to get their hands in your pocket going into this final year of their term and going into an election year, and there's a mad grab for funds on their part. We don't know what they are going to do. We don't know what the consequences are going to be. They are telling us interest and penalties are going to start running from the 30th of September if you don't pay a tax once you've been served the notice of assessment. We don't know how long this valuation objection process can take. The Attorney General misled the population in the Senate when he said that it will be concluded in 1 year. That's absolutely incorrect. That's not the law.
Wow.
He went with the word. He went so far as to call me a liar, saying that everything I said was untrue. So did Minister Imbert. I tell the Attorney General, well, no court in Trinidad and Tobago or elsewhere ever kicked me out for being less than forthright and for being economical with the truth. He has that disgrace hanging over his head. I don't have anything like that. So, the fact of the matter is, if they don't render a decision on your objection within a year, you can then take the process forward to the tribunal, which is yet to be appointed, and then you can go to the High Court. But there's absolutely no cap on a period of time in which this process has to be completed. And all that time, taxes are running against the property as well as interest as well as property. So I would say that we are firmly committed to scrapping this property tax. We say it must be stopped immediately. It must be scrapped now. There should be no further imposition of taxes on the people of Trinidad and Tobago. The government has mismanaged the economy, and it is unfair that they must now, try to compensate for their numerous failures by imposing such hardship on the people of this country at a time like this. And secondly, if they continue with this property tax, they must really try to improve on the processes, and they must implement due process measures into that process, because it is manifestly unfair. And, I cannot see that if we say we live in a democratic society, that any of these measures that they are seeking to take against citizens are democratic in any way possible. They are all the signs and symptoms of a dictatorship are present in this entire process.
Yeah. Thank you so much for linking with us this evening. It's been a pleasure. We will be checking with you periodically, of course, looking at how things develop. I know you're a bit under the weather, but you sound strong. So again, thank you so much again, and keep up the good work.
No matter what we do, we have to keep up the fight against this government. And
yes,
I want
indeed.
to tell people, you have an election coming. Riot with your index finger against property tax, against this government's failure on crime, against their failure in the energy sector, and their overall failure to manage the economy. That is the only salvation that you have coming your way in the years to come.
Thank you so much.
So thank you again for the opportunity.
Great.